So welcome everybody to 2024, and your Uncle James is back with another episode on the J2 Hub podcast. Now look, I've been a little bit lazy recently. I haven't really been doing many podcasts. I've been too busy selling people lovely homes here in Dubai. But one of my goals this year was to get back in the podcast seat because it's something I absolutely love doing. It's something I really do enjoy. So I thought, you know what? Scrap everything else. I'm going to get back in the podcast seat and interview some amazing people. Now, it's that time of the year where people are goal setting. People have got some really good health goals and, you know, they want to kind of get into the best shape of their life. So I thought I'll bring somebody onto the show who's been doing this for a hell of a long time, someone who I've been working with and currently have been failing with, but we'll find out a bit more about that into the show. But before I even introduce him, I'm going to say a statement to him and I want to see if he remembers where this has come from. So firstly, let me introduce Akash from RNT-Fitness. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thanks for having me, James.
No problems at all. The statement I'm going to say to you is 50 at 50. And I want to see if you remember where this is from, because this is how I found out about you.
Yeah, it was one of our members who dropped 50 kilos en route to turning 50. And I think it was one of the podcasts that inspired you to take the first step in your journey.
Damn, I was hoping you wouldn't remember.
Something like that I'm always going to remember.
Okay. Because normally I say 50 at 50 and what's this? Did you have to think for a minute or did you know straight away?
No, I knew straight away.
Okay.
Because I did the marketing on that.
Okay. So I'll go into that a little bit more. So how I met Akash was I saw an article of a guy called 𝗟𝗁𝗁𝗃𝗃 who had lost 50 kilos just before he turned 50 years old. And this guy looked phenomenal. When I saw him, I was like, oh my God, he looks amazing. And then I realized I actually know him, but I knew him when he was a lot fatter. So he looked totally different. And then when I realized it was the same person, I thought, oh my God, if this guy can do it and he's never been anywhere near a gym until he started on this program, I thought, God, there's hope here for Uncle James still. So that's how I found out about these guys. And the more I started researching into their program, the more I realized that, hang on a second, this is actually working for a lot of people. So look, before we delve in and go off topic on other things, do you want to tell the listeners who you are, what you do, and what RNT is all about?
Yeah, appreciate that. So my name is 𝗟𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. I'm the founder of RNT Fitness. And my mission with RNT Fitness is to help busy high performers like yourself get into the best shape of their lives and then use the physical transformation they experience to be a vehicle to go to the next level in their career, relationships, and mindset. So I really believe that your physical health is the foundation to everything else you want to accomplish in your life. And when you can unlock that and you can really take control of it, which is so hard because of decades and decades of bad habits and poor conditioning that we have in our minds, you can really excel in areas and unlock that potential that so many of us crave. We've, since starting RNT in May 2017, we've helped over 3,000 people, just like yourself, in 26 different countries.
People.
Using a unique and proven 5-phase methodology, which I've written a best-selling book on called Transform Your Body, Transform Your Life, which I know you've read.
I've read twice.
You've read twice. And that's effectively what we've built RNT to do, is to help people get in shape and then learn how to build a lifestyle solution to stay in shape. Because getting in shape is one thing, staying in shape is a whole different ballgame. And that's why yo-yo dieting is so common and why our industry almost thrives on it. But the real piece of the puzzle to crack is, how do you rewire your behavior, mindset, and identity to go from getting in shape and losing some weight to keeping that weight off for the rest of your life? And then when you do that, what can you do with it in the rest of your life? And that's what I've dedicated the last 12, 13 years to sort of perfecting and mastering. But it's an ongoing quest and ongoing mission that we're trying to build.
How did it all start for you though? How did RNT come about? Like 12 years ago, what were you doing for you to kind of, develop and sculpture out this program? Yeah,
so when I was growing up, I always wanted to follow my father's footsteps in becoming a lawyer.
Okay.
And everything I did at school was geared towards doing law in the future. So took all the right subjects, the right work experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then around 16, 17 years old, one of my best friends started going to the gym at school. So we had a school gym. And he said to me, Akash, why don't you come along? I thought, why am I going to waste my time going to the gym at lunchtime? And he said to me, yeah, but it'll help you get girls. And I was struggling,
Yeah.
And I was a skinny fat kid with moobs and a pot belly and low in confidence, low in self-esteem. So I thought, you know what, why not? But let's go for it. So I went to the gym with him and I got completely bitten by the bug.
Okay.
I thought I was going there to help me get girls. But what I realized was I just got hooked into nutrition, body composition, training, and I experienced a physical transformation that I didn't think was possible. I went from a skinny fat kid with moobs and a pot belly to a decent set of arms, decent at the time anyway. I look back and I think, yeah, you still look crap. But
Yeah.
it was what I discovered at that point was a level of focus, control, and confidence I didn't think was possible. And I got so obsessed in the field that when it came to submitting university applications, to putting my personal statements together and all these things, I was in that careers class reading a nutrition article, and the same best friend said to me, "Akash, why don't you do something in this space?" I said, "Well, this was back, by the way, this was 2008, so it wasn't really a mature field." And I was like what? And he said, "Well, have a look and see what there is." And I found something called sport and exercise science.
Okay.
So overnight, made the decision. I'm going to go to that. Told my parents. Their response was, "How are you going to pay the bills?" I had no idea, to be honest. I didn't really know what I was going to do. They thought I was going to be a PE teacher doing star jumps in the field. I didn't really know what I was doing either, but I said to them, "I'll make it work."
Yeah.
And the rest is really history. I went to university. I started training my friends for free, experiment on myself, experiment on my friends. Spent 3 years at University of Birmingham studying sport and exercise science. Then I worked as a personal trainer in the City of London. So most of my clients were city executives, lawyers, partners at firms. It was a very wealthy clientele. And I spent 5 years there. And then about 4 years in, so around 2016, I started seeing my colleagues having children. And I was about 25, 26. Started seeing my colleagues having children. And there was one very specific moment I remember where it was a Monday morning and one of the trainers came in, he was bleary-eyed, like red-eyed completely. I said, "How's it going? How's it going with the newborn?" He said, "Yeah, it's great, but I barely get to see him. I only really see them on a Sunday afternoon. I'm exhausted." And that statement just stuck in my head, and I thought,
Wow.
I want to be an active dad one day. I don't want to have that lifestyle for my family. Because as a personal trainer, it's very unsociable hours. You're out the house at 5 in the morning, you're back home at 10 p.m., you're completely controlled by your client's calendar, and it's Monday to Saturday. And I thought, this can't be my reality for the rest of my life. And I'd always had a bit of an entrepreneurial itch where I tried a few ventures, selling t-shirts and you know the things that you do, selling protein powders out the back of your car when I was younger.
Yeah,
so I'd always had an entrepreneurial flair, but I never really had the thing to do it, to sort of channel into. In fact, in 2014, I nearly opened a dessert lounge because
I saw one of those franchises.
Was that?
Was it one of those?
No, I was going to set my own one.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like a little like a Subway concept, but
Yeah.
for desserts. And it was because I was struggling with my relationship with food at the time because of a bad rebound experience, which you can discuss in the later on if you want. And I was just at dessert lounges all the time, and I thought this would be a great business model. So I nearly signed a lease on it and set up a concept. But then I thought, how am I going to be a personal trainer in the daytime and run a dessert lounge at night? So I quickly scrapped that idea. But the point was I was looking for something, and it was around this time where this moment with hearing my colleagues talk about the kids, me seeing that this is not a sustainable way, and I thought I want to go online, and that's where RNT sort of birthed itself. And we started in May 2017, and the rest is the history.
Wow, so I think you made the right decision, right?
I think I did.
Yeah, because I think that's the thing that we all aspire to. Well, I find anyway. Obviously, I'm a lot older than you, and for me, one of the biggest things in my life has always been I want freedom.
Yeah.
And what does freedom look like? Freedom to me looks like getting out of bed when I want, doing what I want, not having to worry about any bills. And I think it's good that you established that very early on, because me, as started several businesses, one of the things I always see with PTs, because I've worked with PTs in the gym before, is I say to them, your earning capacity is limited by the number of hours in a day. And if you want to earn more, you've got to train more people. But there's only so many people you can train. So you need to look for a different concept. So hence the reason why I think that's a good thing that you spotted very, very early on, because you would have just been run-of-the-mill guy in the gym training 8 clients a day, worn out, feel like shit.
Well, I'm so glad I went through that, because I discovered at an early age how much I valued freedom. And there's two things I think I'm really glad I discovered. One is that I had a love for fitness, and I discovered that when I was 17, 18. I didn't end up in a law firm in the city like so many end up doing, and then they don't realize what they're in the corporate treadmill. That was the first one. The second one was this value of freedom. And when I set up RNT, one of the biggest definitions of success I had at the time was I want to work from anywhere, anytime, on my own terms. Now that's kind of broadened to a wider scope of freedom, where I think freedom is more, because what ended up happening is as you start a business, you actually end up even having less freedom, to be honest, right?
Yeah, sure.
For a long period of time, you have to build it again. But I discovered then that freedom was a really important value. And we're recording this in Dubai right now, and I'm spending 3 months away with my little one and my wife. And before leaving, I thought to myself, this is what I always wanted. Like 6 years ago when I started, or 6.5 years when I started RNT, it was to have the freedom to work anywhere, anytime, on my own terms, and to be an active dad.
Mm-hmm.
And now I get to have the best of both worlds. I'm working in doing something I love, but I'm also spending so much time in the day that I almost have to think, this can't be right. There's so much time in my day.
I should be working.
Yeah, I should be working with my daughter. And it's such a precious time to be able to do that. And I think it all happened from that moment of like, I can't see that. I can't let that happen to my life.
Yeah.
And I think it's really taught me the importance of intentionality every single year, to be very intentional with what you want to do with your life. What does success mean? And actually doing something about that. So if success is here and you're living a life over here, you need to try and bridge that gap.
Sure.
With some serious action and serious changes. And it took a lot of changes, and it's been very, really hard getting to this point. Like starting a business and getting to a point where you actually have some control of your time again isn't easy, because you've got to set up systems, team, etc. But it's been the best journey and the best decision I made.
So 2008, when you're telling your Indian parents, Dad, I want to go and become a fitness guy, I'm going to do sports science. What was the response? Because I remember in 2008, if you wasn't a doctor, lawyer, dentist, or an accountant, you've literally let your parents down. World's ended, and they can't, they can't walk out on the street and speak to the neighbors because you've shamed them. So how was that when you told them, Dad, I'm doing something totally opposit?
Well, I remember it still. Like I walked into
You're
walking
the kitchen. Like this, yeah?
I walked into the kitchen, like probably opposite to that. My dad's sitting away from me. He's reading the paper. I tapped him and said, Dad, I've got to tell you something. He's like, what? And I was like, I'm not going to do law anymore. He's like, what are you going to do instead? I'm going to do sports science. And he was like, just paused and just looked down. My mom was like watching from the side because I kind of told her I had some news. And then he goes, so how are you going to pay the bills? And I said, I don't know. I'll make it work.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And then it was just like, they weren't annoyed, but they were just a bit confused because they didn't know what this was, right? And until the point I took them to the open days, I started taking them to the university open days, they realized it was a science degree.
Okay.
So when they saw it was a science degree that included biochemistry, physiology, psychology, then they were like, this is actually...
Not too bad.
This is not too bad, And then he was like, oh yeah, your dad always wanted a scientist in the company. I was like, in the family. I said, well, I'm not going to be a scientist, but yeah, it's a science degree. And then once they knew it was a science degree, they were happy, and they said, if it's science, you can do whatever you like in the future. So
yeah, sure.
And then I think I just had to keep showing them that what I'm doing is actually legit.
No, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I remember growing up in that era as well. And for me to tell my mum at the time, I remember like I'd done my degree, I'd done my master's degree, I went down the teaching route, got a really good job. I'm 28 years old, earning good money, just got my mortgage. But I realized something was missing, and I knew I was capped on my earnings. Because obviously with teaching, there was only so far I could go. And I loved real estate, and I loved property, and I loved business. And I remember walking in and telling her one afternoon, and I'd done one worse, I'd literally just walked out of my job. I didn't even quit. It got that bad. I left a class of kids halfway through. Oh, wow. I picked up my box and I walked out. And I remember still vividly the class. It was a East London school for boys, a bad school, rough school. They're standing on the desk clapping, go on, sir, go on, sir. I'm walking out like my shit don't stink. And I'm thinking to myself, I now need to go home and face my mum. Yeah. And because I lost my dad at a very early age, my mum was like my mum and my dad. So I was I'm in my 20s here and I'm scared. And I need to go and tell her that I've quit. And I've just literally taken my mortgage 6 months prior. So what I did...
Married yet? Or?
Wasn't even married yet.
Yeah.
Wasn't married at the time. So I go back and I think, right, there's a left turn to my house. There's a right turn to the pub. So I turn into the pub. I thought, I need some Dutch courage. Have a couple of pints. I get home, ready, and I tell her, Mum, I quit my job. Oh my God. She's like, what the hell? Like the world broke down. You got your mortgage to pay. You got 26 days to your next payment. What are you going to do? And I said exactly the same thing you did. I'll work something out. I'll figure it out. And 20 years later, or almost 20 years later, I'm still doing my own thing, you know? So making that split decision at that time was the greatest thing I ever did. And I paid for my mortgage and I bought several houses after that. So it wasn't as bad as it was, but there was always this taboo in the Asian scene that you had to be an academic.
Yeah.
So I think nowadays that's completely changed with parents. You know, I mean, I wouldn't be pushing my kids down a certain field now. I want them to explore and do what they want. I mean, like my 13-year-old now, he's like what you said, at 17, you got the bug for the gym. He's got the bug for the gym at 13.
Wow.
And, you know, he's in the gym now on his own, motivating himself, training, probably lifting more than most men do. He's taller than me, got a bigger frame, and he's seeing the results. And I can see that addiction starting to kick in, because now when he's asking for his meals, he's asking for certain food. When he's having his lunches, he's asking for certain lunches. Now, if he turned around and said to me, I want to go down the fitness industry, I'd say, perfect, mate. I've got a whole array of people I can connect you with. But I think back in our time, it was a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and I think that's brilliant what he's doing, because nothing's going to set him up for success than mastering his physical health, because it teaches you so much: discipline, consistency, delayed gratification. And if he's getting addicted to that versus addicted to video games, you know, the sky's the limit of what you can do. Yeah. I think what you said around like this being the last generation to sort of experience that, I think you're so right, because yesterday I was discussing with my wife. I was saying, like, we were talking about education for my daughter, and I said, I don't think university is going to be like it is now. Like, I can't see, with how quickly the world's changing, in 18 years time, so my daughter's 9 months, 18 years time, university is going to be a thing where it like it is now. So it would just be a completely different establishment. I think education will just continue to change. And I said to her, do you think our daughter, who watches the way we work and the way we live, will go down the traditional route of doing school up till 18, then university for 3 years, and then to a job? I was like, there's just no way. Like, whether she does, I don't care what she does, but just being around that energy and seeing what other people do, she'll go down her own path, I think. And I think that'll happen more and more as opportunities are just more and more available. Yeah, yeah. You know, something you just said previously, you said you spend a lot of time with your daughter and your wife. And I actually heard on one of your podcasts where you said that your best days are when you don't actually do a lot at all. You know, I think it was with those 10-minute splits with Dan or someone. I heard it recently. And I thought to myself, you know what, that's so right. Sometimes the power of saying no and doing less actually gives you a more productive day. Because I'm kind of going back to when I was starting business, and one of the things I really regret, and I'm almost kind of I admire you for, is my eldest son. I missed out on so many years because my business at the time was physical. I managed staff to the point that I almost missed his birth. Like, my wife's ringing me. I'm about to go and have a baby. You need to come to the hospital. And I'm like, oh, but at work I've got, and I'm thinking, nah, man, I missed all of that. So with the second one, I didn't make that mistake. You know, I made sure I was there day one, dropped him to school, done everything. In fact, I've probably spent so much time with him that he's fed up on me. So I think what you said there, sometimes the power of saying no is better than kind of taking more on, you know? It's so easy to just say yes to so many, because whilst there's more opportunities, like I said, there's more inbound coming everywhere, right? And we have to somehow create boundaries. And I think that all starts with understanding what we actually value and what we really enjoy in life. Like, for me, it's around freedom, growth, and physical health. So my life is designed around that, which happens to be my 3 priorities, which is physical health, 𝗟𝗰𝗲𝗃𝗃, and Sia, my wife and daughter, and my business. So everything is filtered through those 3 things. And then after that, I decide if I want to do anything else.
And is it in that order?
Well, here's the interesting. Yeah, it rotates in seasons.
Okay.
So it would be sometimes... So you can have 3 top priorities. You can only really have 1. And depending on where I'm at in the year, they will rotate. Okay. So for example, right now, I would say 𝗟𝗰𝗲𝗃𝗃 are top. But maybe 6 months ago, I'd say the business was top. And then it was 𝗟𝗰𝗲𝗃𝗃, and then it was my training. But then a year ago, when I was training for a Muay Thai fight, it was definitely the training was first. So it just rotates with whatever the goal that I'm chasing at the moment, or the focus is. But it always it can't go any further than that. And I think when you have those 3 things, you know what you can say yes to, what you can say no to, and you can just start designing your life in the way that you want it to be. Sure. And that's where you do get those best days. Like, for me, it's just the best days are when I don't have much scheduled. I get a really good session in, spend good time with my wife and daughter. I get, for me, being on the laptop just cranking away isn't like that fun. I much prefer like coming up with ideas in the journal, coming up with strategy in that way. I love doing that. I could do that all day long, those 3 things. And those are my best days. But when I'm back to back in meetings, you know, slamming away emails and doing all that, you know, the hustle feel. Yeah, of course. That's not really what I enjoy. And you've had to do it. You have to pay your dues, right? But the more I can craft my days away from that, the better I feel. And I also feel as business owners, that's the way we add the most value. I don't add value just replying to emails. I add the value in the journal, thinking of ideas, thinking of strategy, problem solving. And I think if we can carve more and more time for that, we enjoy it, but also we can improve.
It's that age-old saying, isn't it? Working on your business and not in your
exactly.
business is what people fail to do. And that's why you kind of just create yourself a very busy job sometimes when you start a business.
Yeah, it just becomes another job, and you've got the worst boss. Your mind is the boss.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never looked at it like that, you know. Yeah.
And the thing is, when we come from, you mentioned like the Asian conditioning. If you think about our parents, they're probably immigrants, right? And they came to the UK, and they came to the UK, and for them it was just about survival. And we probably saw our parents like working insane hours, working really hard just to make a living for ourselves, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And what ends up happening is we take on that survival mentality into our own work when we become adults, which is why, I don't know about you, we probably all suffer from some element of work addiction. Yeah. Some element of just can't switch off, some element of like, we just put ourselves through so much pain it's all in our minds. Like no one else actually cares. It's all in our minds of like, we need to push harder, And it's just this like, we've inherited that conditioning, but we've not changed it to adapt to the modern times that we're in or the modern situation that we have.
Sure.
So something I'm really trying to work on in the last couple of years is breaking this like work addiction. And I don't think I'm completely sober by it, but if I look back to where I was a couple of years ago, there was elements where I'd collapsed a few times.
As in physically collapsed?
Yeah, physically collapsed from burnout, from overstress, burnout. I started like losing my hair a bit at the top, and I had like these like scalp. My scalp was getting dry and like falling off. It was like all these elements of just stress, like overstress, overwork, and it wasn't until I knew my daughter was coming that I was like, I need to actually change this because.
So this was quite recent because she's only 9 months, right?
Yeah, I'd say the collapsing happened in 2019, but I didn't learn from that. Interesting, I didn't learn from it. Like I carried on, like pushing, burnout, pushing.
What do you say? Get up, you pussy. Let's go.
Yeah, just grind. Yeah. Just go harder and harder. And how much pain can you take? Right? Sure. You probably have this narrative in your head of like how much pain can you take? And this is why I'm really good at bodybuilding, right? It's like it suits me really well. But it's how much pain can you take? But I think we do that from a place of fear and scarcity, not a place of like actual security and like abundance. And I've really tried to work on that in the last 2 years. And when I knew 𝗂𝗂 was coming, I thought to myself, I don't want her to take on this. I want this to be the last of it. I don't want this to go to the next generation because our living is the learning, right? They learn off us. And if I'm going to teach her good things with physical health, with your lifestyle, etc., why do I want her to take on that hustle, entrapment, work addiction? I don't want her to take that because as much as she'll take our values, she's also going to take my vices. So knowing 𝗂𝗂 was coming and having her, the best thing it's done for me is actually working on my vices. Because as much as we all like to show our parents the good thing, our children the good things, it's the other things that they pick up on. Because they're going to pick up everything, aren't they? For them, it's just, there's no opinion. There's not positive, negative. It's just, daddy does that, mummy does this. Yeah. Let me do that as well. And if all she sees is daddy's stressed and daddy's just working all the time, okay, maybe that's just the way we normally live. So that's been something I've really tried to, I don't want that to go to the next generation. And I want her to feel secure in that sense of work. So she works from a place of abundance. Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. You know, I think people forget that you have one life and life is for living. And I think, especially in the Asian community, I think you've hit the nail on the head. We've seen our parents hustle so hard. You hear those stories where they came over from India with like £50 in their pockets or £10 in their pockets. And then you sell, like, you know, my mum would tell me stories that we would find a piece of furniture, somebody's kicked it out and we'd bring it in because we just bought our house, so we couldn't afford to furnish it. And watching her as a kid, even though I think back now, I've got vivid memories of when I'm 6, 7 years old, watching my mum hustle. And I think that whole hustler mentality gets passed on a generation. So I think you're right. It needs to be broken because if the kids see that all life is about is work, when do you actually live? I mean, I'm 41 years old and I'm very, very hard on myself. And I had recently I had a brain scan done because I wanted to know what's going on in my head. And what it revealed was it said that your brain is never resting. You're overthinking. You have a certain degree of ADHD where you can't sit still. You can't manage emotions.
What else did it say? And you're very, very hard on yourself. You're very, very self-critical, which I am. Because, you know, there'll be times when I wake up and I look in the mirror, I think, you're a fucking idiot, man. What have you achieved? And then you look back and you think, shit, financially I've achieved quite a lot. But there's that one area where I'm constantly failing at, you know? And this brain scan revealed so much to me. And it's at that point where I thought to myself, you know what? I think you hit the nail on the head. There's got to be 3 priorities, man.
Yeah.
In any high performance person's life, you can only physically do 3 things very, very well. Whereas before I'd be like, man, I've got this massive to-do list. Now I've scrapped that to-do list. I have an intention list. What intentions am I setting for my day? How do I want my day to run? And like you said, some of the best days are when you're not doing stuff. I mean, I had a day like that this week where I came back from the gym, actually spent an hour drinking a coffee and doing nothing but just staring out, you know? Then decided I'm going to go off to Starbucks with my journal. I love to journal. I've been journaling for years. Just write down what's in my head, write down some thoughts, write down some plans. And I thought, at the end of the day, I haven't done a lot, man, today. But it felt like I'd actually got a lot done mentally. There was a lot of stuff that went in. Creatively, a lot of ideas went in. And I processed how I was feeling. You know, I think that was the biggest thing for me. Let me process my emotions. Let me process my thoughts. So I know you like to journal as well. And a few weeks ago, I put a post up about journaling where I shared a journal. And in the journal, I mentioned, I love this time of year because I open up the journal from the year before, I flick to a certain page, and I love to see what problems I put down. And there's certain things that I put down that said, if I don't refinance this property or if I don't make this project go the way it's going to go, I could lose everything. And then underneath it, I've put down stuff. If I lose everything, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And I've opened it and I'm looking at it thinking, you overcame that obstacle. And I'm laughing at that. But at the time, I was shitting myself. And that's when I realized that the importance of journaling is massive. So do you want to share your opinions on journaling? Because like you said, pen to paper for me is still very, very powerful. I don't like the apps. I like to make little notes on the iPhone. But every single morning religiously, I write in my journal every single day.
For me, it's a really good self-awareness mechanism. It's really good at understanding what fears you have and what things you're probably desiring. I think most things that run in your head are usually fear-based problems, right? So I think journaling can be a really good way of just checking in with your thoughts and checking in with yourself to see where you're at with your emotions, because most of us are too scared and too afraid to actually confront those emotions. So if we can see it on paper and see what these perceived problems are, we can usually be like, okay, these aren't actually problems. So that's the first element of where I really like it. The second thing is what you mentioned around the value is, for especially as us as business owners, all the value is in the creative process. So for me, journaling is a really good way of being creative, getting strategic, problem solving, and finding ways to do the same thing differently. So I use journaling in 2 ways. One is more personally, which is self-awareness perspective, and just self-awareness perspective. And the other aspect is more professional, where I think I get my best work done. Okay. And when you start your day off journaling, is there something that you go to first of all? Like, is there something that you list straight away? Because for me, the first thing I list is, how's my sleep been? I just use a stream of consciousness for me.
Okay.
So if I'll do it, it'll be when I do it, it'll be as soon as I wake up. So you're in that kind of weird state already.
Yeah.
And I'll just download whatever I want to download. I don't have too much structure around it. Sometimes I go in with prompts, like have specific questions, and I'll do that a lot, especially towards the end of the year, where I want to start planning the next year. I'll ask questions like, what do I want more of? What do I want less of? What do I want to keep? What would success look like in 2024? What do I want my days to look like? What's the reason I'm doing this? Because these things evolve, right? What I had as my version of success in 2017 is probably evolved to this day. So I think it's important to just keep checking in on those things, because that way you can then craft the life that you actually want in the following year, or the following months, as opposed to just running on that same treadmill that you've probably created in yourself. Because our wants and needs evolve, I think it's important to keep checking in on those and then taking necessary actions and steps accordingly. So about once a year, I'll do those sorts of questions where I'll have very specific prompts. And then every now and then, if I'm dealing with a specific problem in the business or personally, I'll use prompts accordingly.
Okay.
Like, for example, what is the biggest constraint in the business that I need to overcome? Or what are my blind spots that I'm not seeing? Where could I improve? Or, you know, you get the idea.
Sure.
Here.
So, Akash, for anybody listening who's thinking, you know what, I like what these two guys are saying about journaling, because I actually shared it on social media. I shared the questions, I shared the structure that I have, because I thought loads of people can get benefit from this, because I haven't invented it myself. People have told me about journaling. So if anybody's out there listening thinking, you know what, I want to start a journal, how would you tell them to start? What would you tell them to do?
Firstly, buy a journal.
Yeah.
And then I'd say, so sometimes it might be hard just to just write, right? So, but I would really try and encourage that style. And I'll give another style for those who want specific. But the first style I would recommend is just to put pen to paper and just write whatever comes to your mind. Because so often we don't actually confront these things. And it's so easy when you put yourself in this busy trap to never actually know what's going on inside. And that's why people are scared of alone time. People are scared of going for a walk alone. People are scared of sitting in their room alone, because they're like, oh shit, what's going to come up? Or what's, you know, I don't want to be in my head. I'd rather, let me just do whatever the next crutch is that you use to fill time. We're all guilty of this, right? So that's the first element of just be with your thoughts and stream out consciousness. The second I would say is just write as simple as, what are the 3 things I want to achieve today? And that could be the start of having at least some intention to each day, as opposed to let me try to get through this day.
Yeah.
Because when your calendar is really stacked, it can be very easy to just get overwhelmed by everything and actually not get anything done.
Sure.
Whereas if you know the 1 to 3 things that will really move the needle forward, that can be a game changer in giving you that focus in the day. So that'll be another way of doing it. And then the other way to do it is to do it at nighttime and to reflect on the day.
Check in with your thoughts.
You can reflect on the day. So another way I like to do it is like, how was today? Did I accomplish what I said I'd accomplish? How did I do on my vices? I actually stole that one from, I think it might be Winston Churchill. I was reading this like Stoic blog.
Yeah.
And it's talking about how Winston Churchill used to like journal at night and say, he used to check in on his vices. He used to check in on if he accomplished the one thing he wanted to accomplish.
How many cigars did he smoke that day?
How many cigars did he smoke? And also, what did he want to do tomorrow? So that's another way of getting you ready for the next day, is to journal what you want to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
And these things don't need to be long. I think people think you need to spend hours on it. I think 5-10 minutes can give you a lot of value.
Yeah. I mean, I keep my journal on the desk with me, and then if I'm traveling, it's always in my bag, because if some thought comes to mind, I've realized the older I've got, that thought in the morning, by the evening, I can't remember it. Forget evening, 15 minutes later, I can't remember it. So it goes straight in the journal so I can process it. But something you said about Stoicism there, I love it. I love Stoicism. And some of the things they teach is the easiest way to be happy is just to get rid of the baggage that you're carrying.
Yeah.
You know, just simplify your life, cut all that crap out, and suddenly you're free. You know, if you've got a big mortgage, get rid of your mortgage. You know, if you're carrying extra baggage that you don't need to be carrying, get rid of it. And suddenly you've got a simple life. You can be wherever you want. You've got total freedom. And I do put Stoicism is one of those things I touch upon in the journal as well, every single day. Or I will read a Stoic quote every day. Or on the way to the gym in the morning, I have the Stoic channel on YouTube, which is very, very good. Sets you up nicely for the day, lets you process your thoughts. But
one thing on Stoicism is, one thing I've always struggled with is presence and gratitude. I've always struggled with that. Like I struggle. I'm always in my head, always thinking about the future. I remember reading this thing from Marcus Aurelius, and he said, I think he lost a lot of children.
Yes,
he lost quite a few children. So then he started thinking, before he put his son to bed, he would think, well, what if he's not here in the morning? Wow. He would ask himself that question. And he said, you know, they used to write differently, but in his words, it was basically saying something like, we don't question when nature dies, when things in nature die, but it's crazy. We don't even consider that we may lose a child overnight. And he tells himself that, he used to tell himself that every night before bed to keep him present and in the moment with his child. And the lesson I took from that is, when you think you're rushing bath time or you're rushing time with your kids, is, well, what if this is the last time?
Absolutely.
That's a very sobering thought. And you can even say, what if this is the last time they do this? Like for me, I'm in that phase where there's milestones happening all the time. So it's like, oh, what if this is the last time they do, what if she does this and this is the last time I see it? And it's been one of the only framings, and it's quite a sobering, bleak framing, but it's one of the only framings that's helped me actually stay in the moment and actually experience a bit of gratitude, because I struggle with that a lot. And when I think, what if this is the last time she does this? Or what if the last time I get to do bath time like this? It makes you think, all right, I need to be here for this bath time.
Yeah. I totally agree with you, man. They grow so quick, and all of these memories, they just become memories. And one of the things I put in my journal is that gratitude, and it could be as simple as, I'm grateful to have a roof over my head. I'm grateful to be in a safe, warm bed. I'm grateful to have a wife and kids that love me. I'm grateful to have children that look up to me, and simple things like that. You think to yourself, that really does start my day off well. Yeah. And, we worry about, am I going to hit my target for the business next year? Am I going to do this? When in the grand scheme of things, you may not even make it to next year. You may not even make it to the end of the week. We don't know when our last breath's going to be, and we're worrying about shit in the future that we have no control over. And I'm making it sound easy, and it's not easy. To try and live in the present is so difficult, man. To try and appreciate, just now, me and you sitting here, just to appreciate what we've got here right now, having a great conversation. It's difficult to be in the present because we're always thinking, what am I going to do tomorrow? Where am I going to go when I finish this? How am I going to achieve my next target? How am I going to get my kids married in the future? Who are they going to end up with? All of this stuff, man. I've had a new niece who's just been born. I've got 6 nieces. I'm thinking to myself, damn, man, at one point these girls are going to get married, James. You need to tighten up that wallet, because in an Asian thing, and I'm thinking, this is 25 years away. And you're worrying. That I went to see my new niece in the hospital last week. Yeah. And my wife goes, what's wrong with you? I go, I'm really happy, but I'm just thinking, I need to start saving for a wedding. And she's like, you're such a dick, But little things like this, I think living in the present is difficult to do, man.
It's hard. Until you said what we're doing afterwards, I wasn't actually thinking much about the future, which is a good sign that we're having a good conversation. And it is the hardest thing. And I think it's also, I think one thing you said earlier was like, when you journal, I'm grateful to have a roof over my head. Now, it sounds really nice when you say it out loud, but I think it's hard. I find it hard. I find it hard to actually connect with it sometimes. Okay. As you say, you're writing down, I feel grateful to have a roof over my head. I feel grateful to see the clouds in the sky, or whatever these things are. But I think sometimes it can just become
you're just writing.
Yeah, you're just writing it, or you're just going through the motions with it. And it was like, and I used to do this, and that's why I'm mentioning. And obviously, I'm not saying you're experiencing that, but this is my experience with those sorts of sentiments. And that's why the only thing that's actually worked was this other way. It's like the negative approach of it, of like, what if this is the last time? If I don't do this now, that element has been the only one that's helped me. Yeah. And that's just sharing.
But I tell you what, what helps me
you.
appreciate it more is when you see what's going on in the world right now. Yeah. You see what's happening in Palestine, where people are going to sleep with their kid and their family, and then they're waking up and there's no roof on their house. Yeah. And their kid's been killed. So for me, suddenly this gratitude of waking up in a safe environment, knowing that I'm safe and knowing that my family's safe, it's a big one, man. It hits home hard now when you see those images online, whatever people's political views are on it. For me, just seeing, a father holding a child that's dead, man, I don't care. Once you're a father and you see that hurts. Yeah. Don't matter whose kid it is. I see a kid fall down on the street and hurt its leg and it's crying, and it hurts me because I'm a dad. I know what that pain feels like, So I think suddenly gratitude for those little things actually becomes quite serious.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think one thing you said around becoming a dad, things do change, right? I was always quite a non-emotional guy. Yeah. But I think since having a child, that part of me has definitely awakened. Yeah. And I didn't expect that.
Yeah, it's gonna get bigger as time goes on, man. I mean, I look at you now and I think, I saw that video the other day when your little girl's crawling up to you. I still remember when my boy did that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it's the best feeling in the world. Yeah. And the emotions you feel from it, you're like, oh my God, what's going on here? What's going to happen next? Next thing, she's going to be walking up to me. Or when she turns around and calls you daddy. You've got all these experiences to go through, man. I've been through all of these. And, I'm happy for you that you're going to experience this, because it's a lovely place to be, man. Being a father, being a husband, it's a different chapter in someone's life.
This thing she's done at the moment, I'm just thinking about it now. It's making me
emotional. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
She's like, I'll be standing on the other side of the room, and she'll look at me, and then she'll smile, and then she'll let us really cheeky smile. Then she'll look down, and then she'll just start crawling really quickly. And I can hear her panting away, crawling away, and then she'll stop right at my feet, and then she'll look up, and then she'll like pick up my socks, because they're like bright socks. Yeah. And it's funny, she doesn't do that with Chani. She only does it with me, so it's become our little thing now.
Your little thing, yeah.
I'll run around to the other side of the room. She'll look up, smile, then she'll put her head down and crawl at me.
Yeah, you'll see all these little habits developing. But anyway, we could talk about this for hours.
Yeah.
Next statement for you. I hear you say this a lot. I know what it means. Physical is the vehicle.
Yeah, it's a big statement, and there's so many layers to it. So we'll go layer by layers. We'll start with the most obvious one: is if you transform your physical body, you will have more confidence. You will improve your mindset. You will improve your relationships, your career, by default of better habits.
Yeah,
and you feel better. You perform better. I think that's the most obvious one. The second layer to that is if you master your physical being and your physical body and your health over a long enough period of time, you will also master the control of your emotions and your mental health. Because in order to stay in shape, the biggest differentiator is how well you manage your emotions. Something you mentioned earlier around like stress and emotions coming up in your brain scan.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a big part of your journey of how well you can manage and get to the bottom of those emotions, because so many of us over the decades develop reactions to emotions. I'm stressed, let me have a bag of chips. I'm upset, let me have ice cream. I'm had a hard day at work, let me have a drink.
Yeah.
And these are like different associations we have. Or even other way, I'm feeling really happy. I've had a really good week in business.
Yeah,
let me have a drink.
I
right?
said this
And
to you last time,
the other day.
I go and close a big deal. Let me go and get a few beers.
Because emotions are positive and
yeah.
perceived positive and negative. And I think if we can master those and break those associations, you just change a fundamental part of your mind and fundamental part of the way you live your life. You know, mentioned earlier around vices. I think if you stay in shape long enough, you work on your vices one by one, and it will take a while, but you just go through it layer by layer. And for me, for example, the one I've been working on is work addiction. But for others, it could have been, it's usually around food, drink, drugs, gambling, porn, sex. There's so many, all these things that we can use in bad amounts. So that's the second layer. The third layer is the more spiritual aspect to this, where if we think about the physical body, for the physical body being the vehicle that's carrying our soul, carrying our heart, carrying everything inside of it through this journey.
Yeah.
And if we want to live a long, healthy life, if we want to live a clear, spiritual, connected life, then our physical body, the vehicle, needs to be in tip-top shape. And it's the chariot, effectively. If we go back to the 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗺𝗃𝗃 and we go into the spiritual text, it's the chariot that is protecting the soul. So the physical being the vehicle is exactly that. That if we want to tap into deeper and deeper levels of consciousness and spirituality, we have to look after the body. And that doesn't mean extremes of physical health or anything like that. It's just having a robust, strong, flexible, healthy relationship with food and your body in order to tap into this deeper aspect of life.
Yeah.
So that's how the layers get deeper and deeper.
Yeah, it's a big statement. And I think, look, for anybody, obviously we're limited on time. We could talk for hours on this, but I think for anybody who wants to really understand this, Akash's book is amazing, and it's on Amazon, right? You can get it wherever. And it's a really nice, easy read. I mean, I read it in 2 sittings, and you will learn about certain things in that book, which are pretty amazing, man. Little things like food hygiene, just tiny little things where I took down so many notes. So it's an amazing book, and I'd recommend it to anybody. Grab yourself a copy. There's lots and lots of stuff in there, and it's very well written, man. It's very, very well written. And I know from listening to one of your previous podcasts, a hell of a lot of work went into that book. It wasn't something that you just ChatGPT'd or anything, because ChatGPT wasn't back then. But I remember you saying that, there was blocks of time in your diary that you were just devoting to writing this book. And it's a phenomenal book, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I really like it. To read it twice, there's not often I would read a book twice. I've read it twice, and you saw the notes I made on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's nearly been 4 years now since the book's come out.
I think we need a volume 2.
Yeah, potentially. There's things in the book I look at and think, yeah, this could be better.
Yeah.
This is probably updated. I think there's areas I'd want to add into it, like more around dealing with stress and emotions. So I think there's definitely areas of it that I'd want to improve and update, which should be the case. Nearly 4 years on.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there's 4 years already.
Yeah, May 2020 it came out.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I can't believe it's gone that quick. But yeah, you're right. I used to dedicate the first 3 to 4 hours of every single day to it. And I literally was ruthless with it. 6 days a week, 3 to 4 hours in the morning. Back then, I didn't have a a kid, and I didn't live with my wife at the time. We were just dating.
Yeah.
So I was just at home, 6 till 10 in the morning, no distractions,
Smashing it out.
just smashing out writing.
Yeah. Reminds me very similar of what 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗃𝗁𝗍𝗃 did with his book, and he talks about 2,000 hours or maybe even more going into that book to create, which is a world bestseller.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
I think the concept of blocking the times in your day to do different aspects of the business is really, really good.
Yeah.
Like one thing that helped me right at the beginning, especially, and I think if there's people listening to this who are early on in their entrepreneurial journey or starting out, you're going to be inundated with things. Like you're probably listening to us thinking we're having days where we're doing nothing, and that's not going to be the reality when you're starting this.
Yeah.
Right. So the best way to keep the business moving forward without just getting stuck in the fires is to have 2 to 4 hours in the morning when you wake up, just dedicated to on the business.
Yeah.
Like you've got to do that. Otherwise you're just going to spend all day replying to customers' complaints, services, sales calls, meetings. You're never going to do anything that's going to move the business forward.
Yeah.
So you have to be intentional with crafting that time. And if you've got kids or you've got whatever the situation is, you just got to get up earlier. You just got to do things differently in order to move things forward, because you can't get to the state where you have a bit more leverage until you get through that crazy period of systemizing the business. And that takes time. That does take a lot of work.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
If we were recording this podcast 4 years ago, probably be a different, saying a few different things, but that would be one thing just to reiterate, that you got to go through the journey. There's no skipping the levels, and every level has another devil. You just got to.
I like that. Every level has another devil.
That's not my line. I've heard that from someone else.
I'm going to steal it.
Yeah. Might be my friend Dan actually. He told me that one.
But look, let's talk about fitness. Now, for myself, business comes quite easy now,
Yeah.
I love business. I love creating business. And it's something that I find I can create a business from start to finish. And I've done it many times and I find it easy. But something that I've really struggled with for a long period of time is fitness. Now, it's not that I haven't got point could be argued, I haven't got the discipline. I can get into the gym and train. No problem at all, I can even eat well to a certain extent. But for myself, it's that one vice that kicks in, which just, that one trigger can ruin everything. And that's if I go out and have a drink. If I have a drink, I just know, my mind just says, okay, you've had a drink, you might as well have a burger. You've had a burger, you might as well have some chips. You're on the downward slope now. And at some point in the evening, you think, I'll fuck this up so bad, I'll just start again next week, And it's a battle that I've had for a long time. And I think to myself, you're putting yourself through this pain for such a prolonged period of time. All you need to do is just buck up your ideas for 1 year and all of this could change. But why is it that so many people find this difficult? Yeah. Why is it that fitness and weight loss is so damn difficult? I know me as a person, when I put my mind to something, 100% I can do it. I've ran several marathons in the past, and that was after giving up smoking. One of the targets, nearly 14 years ago, after stopping smoking, I want to run a marathon.
Why did you stop smoking?
The day my son was born, I said, I'm not smoking anymore.
Why?
I don't want my son to see this bad habit that I've got.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And so I never touched it.
Would you ever say that same thing for booze?
You got me there, man. Yeah. We were having a discussion, me and my son, the other day, and he was talking about booze. He goes, Dad, do you know what? I think when I'm older, I'm not going to drink. And I went, why? He goes, I see how my nonna gets when he has a drink. I see how, some of the family can get when they have a drink. I can see what comes off of it. And I sat there for a minute, thinking, shit, this guy, I know he's an intelligent bloke.
It's the older one, right?
Older one, yeah. And I thought, he's still observing. And he goes, yeah, when you and Uncle Rish get together, it's all good. Like, it's fun, it's jokes, you really involve me, because we do get him involved. Yeah. But he goes, Dad, it gets to a certain point where it gets a bit stupid. And then I thought, fuck, man, this guy's seeing what I'm doing. Yeah. So it's amazing what you say. And recently I heard something, actually I heard it in November, where somebody said, he goes, alcohol has a 0 ROI. And that hit me because I can relate that to business. Yeah. If something's got a 0 ROI, I'm not interested in it. Why would I be? It's nonsense. It don't make sense. When this person said, he goes, alcohol has, I think it might have been Andy Elliott who said this.
Okay.
0 ROI. And I thought, this guy's so right, man. You drink some more. Yeah, it's all exciting. It's good at the time, yeah? Next day you feel like shit. You probably end up having an argument with your loved ones. You can't function properly. Your gut's fucked up. You're going to eat shit food. And you just kind of put yourself back like 10 steps.
All right, so James, I'm going to interrupt you there. Just listen to everything you just said.
Yeah.
Why do you have a drink then?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't had a drink this year so far, so I'm kind of like, yeah.
We're 10 days in.
Yeah, I'm winning. I'm winning. Small steps.
But you've rationalized all these things.
In my head,
right?
I
You've
know,
rationalized
yeah.
it. You've even said your kid thinks it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Right? So what is it that draws you to it? And why do you have it?
That's a good question, man. That's a good question. I don't know. I think actually...
You do know.
Social aspect, you feel good. You know, okay, it's a drug. You know, it makes you relaxed. It makes you feel good. And then when something makes you feel good, you just want more of it, right?
Yeah. One thing you mentioned is that there's a massive social confidence thing to it. And there's a massive social association with it.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming in your family, having a whiskey, having a beer together is like a thing. Is that correct?
A couple of
Based on
times,
what you
few
said.
few times a year when it's Christmas. The thing is, I actually come from a family of non-drinkers.
Okay.
This
I
is the
thought you
thing.
were describing...
But like the next generation, me and my cousins, we're totally different. You know, we've kind of,
okay.
we've brought the drink aspect into the family where
Okay.
if you look at our fathers, there was no drinking.
Fine.
There was none of this. And for me, I don't need a drink. Like, I mean, I can present in front of 1,000 people.
Yeah, that's not it though. That's not it. Because you can do that because it's business. And
Sure.
You can put the business face on. You got the business face on now. You know, when the jacket's on, you've got the thing. But I think you need to ask yourself, because can I be honest with you?
Sure.
When I asked you that question, you looked a bit nervous.
I was a bit nervous.
and probably because we're recording it, you don't want to say it. But I think it's a real opportunity for you to think about that question and like actually ask yourself the question around why is it that you need alcohol? Because logically, all the answers are stacking against it.
Yeah.
Your son thinks it's embarrassing, doesn't want to do it in the future. You know it's not an ROI. So what is it then? And then it's probably an emotional question or a vice question of like, what is it the vice for? And that's the question I think for you to really get to the root of, and only you can understand that question. So if you want to journal on anything, that should be the big one, because I think that's the root issue for you. Like you've already described how it helps you, it causes you to fall off the wagon.
Yeah.
If you can get to the root of that, that will then unlock everything else for you, because you've got to break the associations or whatever it's void it's filling.
Yeah.
So that you can replace it with something else more positive.
Yeah.
But also get rid of that need.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. I mean,
it's a tough one because it's decades of conditioning.
Yeah, of course
right?
it is.
But you've
Of course it
proven
is.
yourself you can do it, because if you quit smoking on the day your son was born,
yeah.
there was obviously and in your head you were like, I don't want my son to see this, or I don't want to smoke, I don't want to put tar into my son's lungs, right? It was
Sure.
something there was like very clear. You just need to find the same thing now for alcohol, because I think for a while you're gonna have to. I think the idea of like reducing it is probably not gonna work.
No, for me, it's all or
It's
nothing.
gotta
I have
be-
that kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's got to be a decision of like, am I going to do this now?
Yeah.
Or am I going to change my reward mechanism around alcohol?
the thing is, I did stop for a period of 5 years.
Okay.
And 5 years is a long time.
That is a long time.
And then I thought to myself, right, you know, I've gone 5 years. I'm stronger than this now. You know, I control this. And then all the boys are still there. The same circle was still there. And, you know, the circle has a lot to do with it as well. And when I left Dubai and went to the UK, what happened? I fell off the wagon because the same thing's there. When I'm in Dubai, I'm good as gold because I have only 1 or 2 friends there.
So that's another interesting.
The associations are different.
Yeah. That's another interesting aspect of it, is that is the social aspect. And what will kick in is, you know, have you heard me talk about when you lose 30 kilos, your brain doesn't know you've lost 30 kilos yet. So let me take this example. So let's say you're 100 kilos now and you get down to 70 kilos. When you get to 70 kilos, you've lost 70 kilos physically, but your brain still thinks, or your brain and mind still act like you are 100 kilos. But you've applied all this discipline and accountability to get you to 70 kilos, but you're still thinking around the 100 kilo mark. So when you walk back into the pub, on the way down, it's like, no guys, I'm on this weight loss journey, you know, I'm good, etc. You get yourself down to 70. Now you got to 70, you go to the pub with your boys, same boys. hey boys, you see them and you just associate beer, whiskey, great time.
Yeah.
And your brain's like, great, so let's have a great time. And suddenly it's back to like 5-6 pints. And what happens then? It's a death by 1,000 cuts all the way back up to 100 kilos because you keep exposing yourself to that environment.
Ah, okay.
So you've got to rewire so many behaviors, associations, and your identity as well. And a lot of that also will link to your relationships. So there's an audit there that needs to probably be done of like, do these friends still serve you?
Yeah.
Are they still a circle that you want to be around?
Yeah, yeah.
And you'll be surprised how much that can make a difference to keeping the weight off, because keeping the weight off is all about, it's just a combination of so many factors around like relationships, your circles, your emotions, your stresses, your vices, etc. So maybe there's another root cause there.
Yeah, yeah. It's always been a difficult one for me, man. I think, like you say, I mean, growing up when I did, there was two things you did as a teenager. You either went and experimented with drugs or you went down the park and you had alcohol.
Yeah.
And, that was it. There was no social media back then. Mobile phones were just starting. We still had cards that went into a public phone when you wanted to call your mum, tell them where you are. So life was good back then. There wasn't many distractions. So you had to create your own entertainment. And sadly enough, for us in the Indian community back then, it was like, let's steal my friend's dad's bottle of whiskey and give that a go, or let's get a couple of cans of tinny, so, from the shop and give that a go. So it's a habit that's been there for a long time. But I know for me, it's that trigger. It is that trigger that fucks everything.
Yeah.
And I look back in my life now, last 20 years, every situation I've been in that's been negative has been due to alcohol. And still there's something that's like, oh, okay, I'll have a little bit, but I need to find the right, what's triggering it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that will unlock everything for you.
Yeah. And I think I've zoned it down now, homed it down to that area. Because like I said, for me to get up 5 days a week, 6 days a week, get in the gym and train hard, it comes almost easy. It's the things that screw that up.
I also think, by the way, I think this is the time that you're going to crack it. Because in the past, you would have just probably run away from the problem.
Yeah.
Whereas this time, you're almost leaning into it.
I'm facing
it. Like, you remember the time where you said you celebrated a success with alcohol and you fell off the wagon?
Yeah.
And you told me about it almost like straight away.
Yeah.
And I was like, my response was like, well, actually, I think this is a good thing. Like, rather than you shying away
from
it.
Go in hiding.
Yeah, you've been like, yeah, this is what's happened.
Yeah.
Like, what should I do? And I'm like, well, actually, one step to acknowledge here is you're not running away from it. You're leaning into this problem. And that's the hardest thing, I think. So that's why I think this is the time to do it for you. Yeah. So I'm very confident that you're going to make it happen this time. Yeah. It's just a case of breaking through now.
Mm. I think, also most recently I've become a little bit obsessed with data, figures and markers. Because I thought to myself, in business, I'm always looking at profit and loss. I'm looking at how things are doing, what sales we're coming in. And I've kind of tried to adopt that now onto the physical being. I've always had blood tests done, but now I've become more obsessed with looking at blood tests. I'm watching my sleep. I've had a gut test done and all of these things. I'm kind of a brain scan done. So I'm thinking to myself, what happens if I start tweaking this? What happens if I start tweaking this? What happens if I increase my sleep? Because I've had shit sleep for years. So now one of my biggest focuses is sleep. And that's another topic we can talk about when we do another episode, because sleep is a huge thing that I used to say to my wife, sleeping is cheating. I can work on 3 hours of sleep. And then, I was like, fuck that. I'm getting out of bed. I'm working while everybody else is sleeping. I'm winning. And I realized, actually, no, I heard a podcast with 𝗟𝗰𝗲𝗶𝗶𝗆 the other day. The woman goes that if you're awake for an hour between the hours of, I think she said 10 and 4 in the morning, you're actually reducing your life expectancy. And she goes, we've got figure on this. And she works for Whoop. Yeah. So she's one of the researchers for Whoop. And she's saying, you're leaning into cancer, you're leaning into dementia, you're leaning into Alzheimer's. And I'm thinking to myself, shit, man, I need to just sleep. So now what I've started to do is adopt that business mindset onto the health mindset, where I'm looking at markers and thinking, okay, I look at my aura ring in the morning and think, it's told me that I've had optimum sleep today. I've not seen that for 6 months. Today, this morning, it said you've got optimum HRV levels. Yeah. And I'm thinking, damn, man,
that's why you're on fire today, isn't it?
Proper. And I've started to check that. So I'm thinking, last week I had a day where it was fair, and I'm thinking, Aura is telling me to take it easy today. It's saying, take it easy because your markers are not what they were. And yeah, I felt sleepy through the day.
Well, one thing just to check you in on that is just be careful of like letting your day get driven by that.
Yeah.
Because then you can easily fall into a trap of like over data stimulation where if
Yeah.
Aura's telling you to take it easy, you're suddenly like
I still won't take it easy.
You think you should have a nap in the afternoon when really like you're actually probably fine.
Yeah.
But you're like you're almost being influenced by what the
Absolutely,
data is saying. So just be careful of that. But it's very easy to slip into when you're new to it. So just
yeah. So now I'm watching those markers. So I'm thinking, okay, it's telling me that certain levels are low, that I need to increase this. It's telling me certain things are here.
Yeah.
I've started having a certain IV drip a couple of times in a month, just to boost everything up. I'm going to now invest in one of those cold baths. I thought, you know what, let me try this cold plunge. Everybody's talking about it. Let's go for it. Because now I'm kind of becoming a little bit obsessed to think, okay, if I tweak a few things in my body, if I start upping levels here, there, and there, what's going to actually happen? Whereas before, I didn't give a monkeys. Did not give a monkeys.
Well, the body's the ultimate scorecard.
Yeah.
It will always keep score. You can't cheat it. You can run away from it, but it'll always keep score.
Yeah.
And it'll tell you one way or another to whatever it needs to tell you. Yeah. For me, in 2019, it was collapsing. It was like, dude, you need to change your habits because you're going to the gym, but you're running on little. I wasn't sleeping much either at the time. You're running on sleep. You're not sleeping much. You're not going for walks anymore. You're just focusing on your laptop. So let me pull you back a bit.
Yeah.
So it will never lie.
Yeah. Look, we're pushed for time, but definitely in March, I'm gonna get you back and we'll do another one and talk more about some in-depth topics. But to finish off, I want to ask you, motivation and discipline. In your opinion, what's the difference? Because I know right now a lot of people are motivated. They're signing up with online coaches. They're really saying, this is the year. This is my year.
Yeah.
I'm going to change it. I know what the difference is. What is the ultimate difference between motivation and discipline?
I think motivation is exciting. It's fresh. It's what you said. This is my year. 2024 is the year. I think discipline is what carries you through though. Discipline is what, when it's cold I was going to say it's cold in February, but we're in Dubai, right? So it doesn't really resonate that. But, when shit hits the fan, when life gets in the way, you're still going to keep your steps up. You're still going to eat well. You're still going to train. I think that's where discipline comes in. But discipline is linked to the identity that you want to hold and your reason for doing this. So you have a strong reason for why you're doing this and you know who you want to become. And if you can bridge the gap, and then you bridge the gap with discipline. And discipline is what will keep you going when life gets in the way, because life will get in the way. Absolutely. It's easy to be motivated when, it's January, everyone's excited, all your friends are on their health kicks. But when February rolls around, you're still going to be there. When November comes around in 11 months' time, are you going to be writing in your goals, oh, I'm going to go for weight loss next year? Or are you going to be writing, oh, I've smashed my weight loss this year. Next year I'm going for performance. Next year I want to get stronger. Next year I want to achieve even bigger goals. That only comes when you smash this with discipline. No,
absolutely. And I look, for anybody listening, they're probably thinking, man, these guys, it comes easy. And it doesn't. Let me just give you some background. So Akash runs RNT. He manages, 5-6 staff now, or even more?
Team of 15.
Okay, I only know 5 of them.
Yeah.
Team of 15 staff. He's a new father. He's newly married. So, these things don't come easily. Even for myself, I run a business back home, manage several properties. I have 2 children here. I have school runs to think about, and I run a business here as well. So it's not that it comes easy to us. I think you've just kind of, like you said, you've developed a system, a process. And I think weight loss and health goals, people think, I've got too much shit to do. I can't do it. Because that's another thing I hear all the time. I was one of those people. I've got too many businesses to run. I've got too much shit to do. I can't go to the gym. How can someone get over that?
First, you got to get out. You got to get over that whole excuse, because nothing will give you more ROI. We talked about ROI earlier. Nothing will give you more ROI than losing weight and getting healthier and feeling, looking and performing at your best.
Yeah.
Because the irony is, if you think you're busy for your business now, you're not going to get busier. You're not going to get any less busier. That's always going to be the case, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to always be doing something, right? But if you can work on your physical fitness, you'll get more ROI from that busy time that you're putting into your business, because you'll be more productive.
Yeah.
You'll feel better. You'll be more confident. Imagine wearing a well-fitted suit that is tailored in for you in a V-shaped format, and you're going to investor meetings, you're pitching at a board, or you're meeting a client, you're going to feel better. You're going to be more confident.
Man.
What's that going to mean? It's going to close more deals.
Yeah.
So it has, and if you're in front of camera, that there's so many aspects of looking, feeling, and performing your best that's going to improve your business. And also all the clarity you get of like, is this the right business? Am I doing it the right way? Do I want to live my life this way? Do I want to be around these people anymore? All that clarity is going to come through a body transformation. So it's not just a monetary aspect, which, you know, for business people, they're probably thinking money, time, and those two things. It's not just that, but it's also the actual element of lifestyle. You're going to improve your lifestyle and you're going to be able to live more of a life by design as opposed to a life by default.
Yeah, yeah. So look, lastly, to wrap it up, what's 3 things somebody can do right now to change their life for the better, in your opinion?
Yeah, 3 things. First will be to start sleeping in the same 1 hour window every single day.
That's your circadian rhythm, yeah?
Get a nice circadian rhythm, improve your sleep.
Sounding good, man.
Also improve your habits of like, you're not going to be late nights Netflix scrolling.
Yeah.
So 1 hour, pick 1 hour of the window. It doesn't even matter when. Okay, so go 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, whatever you want it to be. Just pick 1 hour. Second is to add 4,000 steps into your day. So just 4,000. Anyone can do that. If you're only doing 1,000, just add 4,000. It's about a 30-minute walk.
So why do you make us do 10?
You're talking about easy steps right now, right?
Okay.
So add 30-minute walk. You can split that into 3 10-minute walks, or you can do 1 30-minute walk in the morning. You can do it during your meetings, whatever you want. Just pick 30 minutes. And the third would be to try 2 weeks with no snacking. And by that, I mean, for 2 weeks, just pick 3 main meals and just eat the same. Or you can either eat the same 3 meals, or just pick 3 main meals, timings, and only eat at those times.
Okay.
Do those 3 things and see what happens. I wouldn't be
solid
surprised if you
advice.
lost 5 pounds at least in those 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah, because you're probably not slacking, you're probably moving more.
Yeah.
Speaking for the average person.
Yeah, it's amazing that when you make small tweaks, how quickly changes can come and how quickly that scale can drop weight. I've experienced it firsthand.
And what you want is 4 weeks of really good momentum and results. Because if you get 4 weeks of results, what that gives you is the secret source of transformation, which is momentum. When you've got momentum, you just keep stacking small wins together. And when life gets in the way, you have enough energy behind you to navigate it in a way where you don't fall off the wagon.
Yeah.
And if you can get on that momentum train, that's what's going to carry you from 100 kilos to 70 kilos. That's what gets you there. It's not, that's why I like fast, consistent results, not do a couple of weeks here, slow down, lose a bit of weight here, just plateau. You just end up going nowhere because you don't have momentum behind you.
Yeah.
When you have momentum behind you, you just keep dropping.
Absolutely.
That gives you confidence. When you get the confidence, you have the confidence to believe that you can do it even when life is busy. That's when results happen.
Well, some sound advice there, man. And we're 1 hour and 10 minutes in. We're pushed for time. But listen, guys, we will get Akash back again in March when he comes back. But I just want to say thank you so much for coming out and joining me. I know you're pushed for time, and I know your priorities with the family and the little one take priority. So I really appreciate you.
No, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much. And what I will do in March, we'll sit down and we'll really go deep into that whole sleep idea. And what I'll do for the listeners as well. So if anybody's out there listening, go and check out, first of all, the website. Number 2, go and get that book, because that book is phenomenal. And then what I'll do is I'll put all Akash's details in the show notes for the show. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised when you see how normal people have changed their life from where they were to where they are now. So thank you, everyone, and I'll see you on the next episode.